Hey everybody, welcome to Woodworking Wisdom. My name's Colwin, and today we're going to make a set of garden Skittles or patio Skittles. And I'm deciding here to do 6 Skittles, which we're making out of beech, and 3 balls we're going to make from oak. Nice little Skittles. We're not making a massive full-size set, that sort of stuff. This is just fun, no matter how big your garden, your patio is. It's a bit of family fun, really. So we're on our nice little workshop machine here. It's a very basic project. When I say basic, it's time consuming over sort of technical ability on this one. So it's a nice little flowing shape. Make the Skittles whatever you want. You can make them plain, basic. You can go sort of full bowling alley sort of type Skittles. You can do whatever you want, really. But a ball is a ball. We'll have a look at how we turn the ball in a minute. But first of all, let's get cracking into the Skittles. We've got, or we will have, the dust extractor on quite a lot of the time. You should have no problem hearing me. That'll be absolutely fine. So I'm going to put my lathe speed down as low as I go, and on this particular lathe, I've got 3 belt positions. I've got it on the fastest. I need some speed to this, so this is where we're going to start. We're starting at around about 1200 revs. So I'm standing to one side. Lathe speed as low as it goes, 1200 revs. Turn the lathe on. I've already set my tool rest. Everything's nice and tight. So I'm going to turn the lathe speed up a little bit. 1800 revs will be about right for what I'm doing here. And like I said, we're going to start with the extraction on. So here goes. And we're going to rough down to a cylinder first. That's our first objective. There we are, so we're almost down to our cylinder. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to check diameter. I've already set my calipers, so I'm going to do main diameter, then we're going to do neck diameter here. So beading and parting tool is where I need to be for this one. And I'm down to a rough cylinder, so use the parting tool. This is just to ensure that every one we do remains the same. Now I know that I want to come down a little bit more for the neck here, so we can rough that out again. I've got another set of calipers set up ready for this. There we are. So we've got our maximum diameters. And to be honest with you now, I'm not really worried. I've just got to work between these points. I'm going to start now just cleaning up to those diameters. So just nice gentle cuts with the rough and gouge. So we're all nice and clean. So next thing, let's give ourselves some perimeters. So what I'll do is I'll clean up this outside edge down to, or as close to the center as I can. So I'm just using a parting tool to do this. That's going to clean that underside up. Next, I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper cut at the top of the Skittle here. Around about 6 mils, so the same width as the beading and parting tool I'm using to cut. There we are, so that's set me up now. So my high spots, let's have a look at our high spots. High spots are going to be where I'm going to have the high focus of our curve, so there. And here, this is going to remain the same. When you get all the others done, you can actually hold your first one up against your blank and plot that on there. But for the minute, that gives me a good indication. And I'm going to go with a bowl gouge to do the main shaping. I'm going to start with the bit that can't change. That's the top of the Skittle. So if I get that curve in there first, this is a convex curve from the high spot. All the way around. So that's top of our Skittle. I'll now do the bottom of the Skittle. So let's take some bulk away a minute. Then you can start push cutting with the bevel rubbing. There we are. We will just very lightly sort of chamfer this edge over here just to make it easier to fall over. I think that's okay. We may, yeah, let's just change that little lump there. It's not flowing nicely. Just want to take that little high spot away. There we are. That's got it. Blend out. Good. Right, so now I can start thinking about this little concave here. So if I take away some waste. And then join those lines up. I think we're nearly there. I think a little bit more from this area, a little bit more out of the neck. There we are, that's fine there. Now, I've also set up a set of dividers. I just want to get a couple of little lines in there just to ping them out a little bit, make them look a little bit different. So I've set these dividers up. I'm going to measure to a line. Then, with the skew tip, put in another deeper cut, and then come about 5 mil away and do a second cut. They're just going to be decorative lines, which we're going to enhance in a minute with a wire burner. And whilst I'm at this end, let's just take away a little bit more of this end. So cleaning it up with a skew. There we are, that's enough. Get that beading and parting tool out, take a bit more of that away, because this is going to have to be sanded in a minute, so I don't want too much there in the way. Okay, right. Let's get that out the way and get our wire burner. I'm using the Easy Wood wire burner here, literally just running in the line. Wait for the puff of smoke. There it is, puff of smoke is actually puffing but going down the extractor, which is fine. Same with that one. Don't forget now that wire is hot. Don't touch it, and don't leave it anywhere that next to anything that can catch fire, so not in your shavings or anything like that. There we are, so we're ready. Let me get the dust extractor a little bit closer. A little bit of spalting going on here, that's quite nice. So nice and close, and I'm going to treat myself to some new abrasives. So I'm going to go 100, 150, 240, 400. There we are. 100, 150. It sounds like a big gap between, but it's not. It works for this sort of thing. This is beech, so it's not a troublesome timber really. Right, so we're sand all over. just a little bit of a softening to the edge. $100, so $150. And $240. There we are, that was 400. So, next, let's just finish that off. Before we go on to the ball, what we're going to do now, if we finish this one off, so into the sanding discs. So, back to one side. We're going to remove our centre and replace it with a chuck. And on that chuck, we're going to have C-jaws. So that can go to one side. I've got the SK114 here. Equally, it could be the 100. And on that, we're going to have a nice little sanding disc. This is the sanding disc just has a little faceplate ring. I've showed you these before, but it just bridges the gap between the chuck and other attachments. That faceplate is really quite important to me, either with sanding discs like this or push plates, and it's a real asset to a wood turner's arsenal, really. And that's the job of the C-jaws, to expand into that. My lathe speed needs to get turned right down and on again. There we are, that's running there at 1,000 revs, which is ideal. I'm going to flatten the bottom off. Just keep checking, you don't want to have your Skittles leaning, so just make sure you're actually creating a flat and not a chamfer. There we are, that's going to sit nicely. And then I'm going to rough this away. I am going to take another finer disc in a minute, but taking that big nib away. Equally, you could use a little hand pull saw if you wanted to take some of that away before sanding. Just so we've got that. So that's still a rough end, but I do want to finish that. So wait for the lathe to stop. Swap the sanding disc over. We're going to put on a little pad sander. So the same sort of thing that you would use normally for bowl sanding. You know, your power sanders, that sort of stuff. And that can be put on. Increase the speed because the diameter just needs to be a little bit faster. And it's a 240 grit I've got here. You could also go up to a 400 once you've done this step if you wanted to. There we are. Right, let's stop the extractor just for a minute. So there we are. That's your first Skittle. Okay, we've got a load that we've already done over there, but the idea will be to copy. So you're going to set your calibers, you're going to copy each one and get them exactly right with the other. And before we finish today, we're going to make sure we get a good coating of oil on these as well. Probably 2 or 3 coats if you're going to stand them outside, if they're not going to be taken indoors. I wouldn't recommend that though. I'd make sure you bring them indoors every single time. They won't weather outside much. You know, the old shower is fine, but if you wanted to keep them outdoors, then really that sunshine and the rain and everything would start to deteriorate them after a couple of years. So they will need to have a coat of oil in a minute. However, let's get on to the bore. So that was a Skittle. 6 to 9 of those, whichever your preference. Right, okay, so we're on to turning our Skittle balls now. So we've got some lovely bits of oak here. Now, the oak is 3 inches, and I'm going to make these balls 75mm. Okay, so we're completely crossing over metric and imperial. Because the 75mm will be slightly smaller. So once again, I've set up a couple of measuring devices here. I've got a set of calipers and a set of dividers, both set to the same 75mm. Okay, so we're going to check the diameter, then we're going to check the width. A couple of other things that I've done along the way to help me here is I've created a little template, just a circle, and I've used bandsaw just to cut this out, and then sanded with a little drum sander just to give me that true 75mm. If you don't have drum sander, you can just a bit of abrasive on a stick and file to a divided line. Describe a divided line and then file to it. And that's going to help me as I start to shape this ball. What we'll then do is once we've turned the basic shape, we'll flip it 90 degrees to turn off the end nibs and make absolutely sure it's nice and round. The last thing you want is it wobbling around as it goes. Well, you might want that, but last thing I want is it wobbling around as it goes down the patio. Okay, so everything's set up. I'm just going to double check everything's tight again. Make sure the lathe's running free. Lathe on. And then up to about 1800 revs. And again, once again, we're going to have the dust extraction on for this. 1800 there, dust extraction on. We're going to rough down to a near cylinder. Just as I can feel those flats disappearing, I'm just a slightly finer cut with the spinner roughing gouge. Now I'm going to go to my beading and parting tool, take the calipers that we've already set to 75mm, and then gently just ensure we've got our 75mm. There we are. So that's the diameter right. So what we'll do now is we'll just give that a clean up. Just back to that mark. So just a slightly lighter cut here. There we are. So we know that now we've got that 75mm. We now go to the dividers. The dividers are going to be giving me my 75mm in terms of width. So they've done their job. Pop those to one side a moment. And now we go back to our beading and parting tool. Take away the waste. I'm going to up my speed. Same on the other side. We are. Now, next thing, we want to measure a halfway point. So using the rule, I'm going to pop that on the tool rest. So yes, it's 75mm, we know that. So I'm going to work out, using the rule, where that centre line is. That's dead centre of that piece of timber now. So that gives us our next step, which is going to be 45 degrees off the corner. Both corners. And then bevel rub and start that curve. Stand back, have a check. At this point, you can start using your template. Let's grab a template, see how far away I am. So I need to take, at the moment you can see that, and you can see the cheeks away. That's not resting right the way in there. So either side, so I've got to come around a little bit further here. Notice how I'm not going all the way down to that point. I don't want to get rid of my 75mm, which is clearly marked there. So I've just left a little step. So that's looking better now. That's much better. So let's go back with our parting tool. So I can take this line back down further. Side scrape with a parting tool. Same on this side. Side scrape with a parting tool. Double check again with my template. Now that's better. Look, we're right over there. So that's sorted. So that's pretty much it for that part. What we'll do now is just flip him 90 degrees. Turn the extractor off for a little bit. That can just pop out the way for the minute. Now we've got a couple of different things happening here. So we're going to add our SK100 chuck. Perfect little chuck for this lathe. So SK100, that's going to screw straight on. I've got C-jaws in the chuck, and on those, or in those C-jaws, I'm just going to add this. This is a little scrap piece of timber, really. All I've done is create a hole point to go into the chuck, then a taper, and then just dished the inside. So in a minute, that's going to sit in there nicely. Okay, and then on the tailstock, we're going to remove our ring center and replace it with the multi-head. And on the multi-head, we're putting in the little cup center. So just get that one out a moment. And then we're going to have this one. So the multi-head bit of this center is this bit, okay? Hence its name. It has lots of different heads, so multi-head. So we got a little cup center in there. That's going to go at that point. Then I'm going to hold that between the two centers. Before you do this, just ensure that your centers are aligned, by the way. That's really important. Otherwise, it creates excess friction, and that friction will create a mark on the ball. Check everything's going to miss. There we are. Then I'll turn the lathe speed down because we've added quite a lot of stuff to the lathe. Turn the lathe on. Oh. And our job now, of course, again, in fact, let's do it. Whilst it's held there securely, let's just take off some of those worst points with my pull saw. Because it's held nice and firm, we can do this. There we go. Now we can get a little bit closer. Look, there's not much to take off now. So what we'll do is I'll use my skew chisel just on its side. Nice fast lathe speed. Let's have a stop and check just to see what's happening here. A little bit more to come off, I think. Now that's it, ready for sanding again. So that's all we've done. We turned between centers, flipped it 90 degrees, taken off the hole points, and now you can sand that one up. So dust extraction on, and we're going to start with the same well, we're not going to start, we are going to use the same abrasive. So we go from 100 to 400. Every grit size that you use here will have to have the lathe stopped. Stop the lathe a minute. Just check in and make sure I've got rid of all my marks, and I have. The lathe stopped, then flip the back 90 again, resanded. We are. That's the 100, so now 150. And again, stop the lathe. Turn it round. Resand. You get the idea. So you're going to go through this on all of your grit sizes. Go 240. And then lastly the 400. And there you have your ball with no signs of marking. Okay, so again, let's stop our extraction. Tidy a little bit of this way. Now, I tend to go for 3 of those. It seems right, you know, any sort of Skittle game, you need 3 Skittle balls. And my next job on these, if we get all of this out of our way, put the ball down there, grab the Skittle. So I'm going to use finishing on this one, but you might decide that you wanted to put a lacquer on it or something, or another exterior oil, another exterior finish. It's entirely up to you. I should be wearing gloves, but we'll just bypass that for the minute. I want to put this on with quite a lot of excess, because it needs to soak right the way into the timber. So look, we're just going to cover this particular one is a Liberon finishing oil, and I'll put it on to saturation point. Okay, put that there for the minute. Same thing onto the ball. If you're going to do this, it would be wise to put a bit of spare sacrificial timber down, or a bit of newspaper. Don't really want too much finish on the bed of your lathe, but if you have, then just make sure you wipe it off before you leave the workshop. There we are. So that's covered to saturation. Before I go too far, let's just wipe off any excess. You want it to soak in, but what you don't want to do with any finishing oil, or any oil, full stop, is lay that surface to pool, because it will just go sticky. It won't fully dry, and so you get quite a poor finish. So I'm just wiping off the excess, and then they just need to be left about 24 hours, and then give them another denib just with a bit of light abrasive, and then put your next coat on. Around about, I would say 2 to 3 coats would be absolutely fine. There we are. Now I've got a few that we've already turned. Let me get a few out. I've got a little bit of oiling to do, but hopefully you can get the idea. Lovely little garden game for springtime, summertime, anytime you get out in the garden really. 6 Skittles there, 3 balls. If I could juggle, I would, but there we are. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed that. I certainly have. It's a lovely project to do. Make the Skittles whatever shape you want to. You can turn them into penguins if you wanted to. But that's a lovely family game of Patio Skittles. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.